Yo!
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's rendition of the Mazarin broadcast, coming at you live a bit earlier than last night. That was a weird, well, I wouldn't say weird, but it was definitely an interesting stream playing Stardew. This time, the music will stay on because it's copyright free. Ain't gonna hurt nobody. I hope not. But as you guessed from the title, I would like to take this opportunity to talk about my world. Well, I should say the world me and my friends have been building for a while now. Let me turn this down a little bit because it sounds very loud on stream, but I very much like the sound of it. So to kind of have it in the background be kind of nice. So it looks. Oh, you know what? We hit 12 followers. So thank you, Wowie0Wowie, for the follow. I did promise on Twitter, if we hit 12 followers, which we just did, I would try to stream earlier for some of our friends across the pond, which may surprise you, but they do exist, and they are just as important as the rest of our viewers. So we will be streaming hopefully earlier tomorrow, if not during the week. What should I start with? You know what? Let's move this over here. Get this out of here, get this out of here. I have a lot of tabs and applications open right now, so I'm just trying to keep track of everything. And sorry if I sound stuffy, I'm a little congested right now. Yeah, you know what? Let's open this. Check this out. Welcome to Scoria. So, Scoria is a world me and my friends have been building and curating since I want to say fall of 2012. We were in middle school, nearly 10 years ago, basically. It started with me, believe it or not. I made a couple countries on nation states, told these countries about my friends at school, and from there we've built this. I know it looks like a big spreadsheet, but what you're seeing here is so at the top here, these are regions. The basis for each region, the number of nations in each region, the largest city in the region, and a little blurb. And then down here is each country in the region. And this is just the countries for Bosmaria, so there's 16 of them. It includes what we base them off of, capital, their leader, their government, their religion, and the languages they speak. There's also a few more tabs if you scurry on over here. So we got languages already. If they're part of the regional organization, faction, and if there's more info on them. At the bottom, you'll see other tabs for categories we've categorized these countries in. But basically, it's like it's so hard to describe. It's not alternate history because it's not like an alternate Earth, but I would say Earth-like would be the right word. Earth-like, near future world building world. So, I mean, what else can I show you? If they have these blue bolded names, we have separate docks each one, and the goal is we're trying to make docks for each country at this point. Oh, you know what? Yukon Cornelius is here. I should Hey, yo. Hello?
Hey, Jacob.
What's up? What's up? I was actually just introing the stream and talking about Scoria a bit. I forgot I was in Discord, so I wanted to undeafen myself and say hello.
Word dog. What's up, dude? Hello, stream.
Just chilling, dude. We hit 12 followers. I'm guessing that other one was Sebastian, so he really
No,
wants me
I
to
mean,
stream
that's
early.
awesome, dude.
Oh
That's
yeah,
really good.
thanks, man.
I mean, in the span of, what, 3 days? That's awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
Super happy about that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got your first, like, non-us follower or viewer.
That's true. That was very exciting the other day.
That is pretty cool. The fact that he stayed around and. You also have one viewer. Who's that viewer?
Uh, who knows? It's
Dude, that's awesome.
I'm seeing names from the other day, so I don't know if that's the same people or the chat is being a little weird.
Wish they could talk in chat.
If you're watching, let
I
us
wish
know.
somebody else would talk in chat so I could check out how moderator works. I would like to know. Like,
Well, if you talk in chat, you'll see like you'll have an icon, and then
yeah, I have the icon with the. I would like to. It'd be cool to have a non-us moderator. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, you're right. I hopefully we'll reach that point, but who
That
knows?
would be pretty cool. I have to go get a bread tie because I am gonna rearrange some of these cords that I have that are all over the place. But I will BRB.
Hey, no worries. I'm gonna keep talking about this.
Cool.
That was a guest appearance by Dalton. Shout out. Anyways, um, so there you go. I was in Discord the whole time. So that's Bosmaria. It's kind of based off the Caribbean and the Pacific Northwest. Uh, I've already kind of covered the largest cities and the info regarding it. You can see here the countries in the region and what they're based on. And it's not the newest region, but it's actually one of the newer ones. And it was pretty exciting to add because of all the cool islands and cultures we can come up with. Let's just move down the list here. So we got Illustrious. Now, Illustrious is based on Asia. 28 countries, capitals in Joa, a city called Iona. It's like this big, sprawling metropolis. You can see here that some of the countries in here. Let me talk about the major religion each region. It's gonna
I
be
am back now.
hello, hello. So in Bosmaria, we got like a lot of Theosis countries. I mean, it's basically the Caribbean, so no surprises. Whereas in Illustrious, we've got quite a few religions based on like folk religions. We got dream conjurers that are there. The Dura religion.
Dream Conjurers.
I'm so surprised. So I don't know if Dalton you know this, but we actually in our Scoria group chat on WhatsApp we ran a poll, a survey, and I asked people, hey, what's your like your most like widely drunken like alcohol, like most eaten meat, religion, etc.
Yep.
Thanks to Miles and Alex and Sam, dream conjuring is like now the fourth largest religion in the world, basically.
Good lord.
It's actually pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
And then we had the idea, like, you know what, we should make it start out in like some of these other countries and spread it around. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
But I want to talk briefly about Dura. We actually made Dura from. Uh, we were playing Forge in Halo 3, and I think you remember Aaron.
Hey? Yeah, I know Aaron.
And then he spawned a kill ball, and he goes, "Look, it's the hot moon."
The
And that and
hot moon.
this religion is basically a
Spicy
nod
moon.
to that. Literally, the
That's pretty funny.
Dura believe in the four hot moons.
It's a spicy moon.
Spicy moon. Let me go through these really quickly, and I want to get back into World Painter because let me show you what I'm working on after this. Casavea is like Latin and Indigenous America, except one would argue better off because not as many, what's the word, colonizers? I'll open the map here in a second, you can see, but like most of the northern part of Casavea has a lot of colonization going on, but the rest of the south is pretty chilling out.
Chilling out, man.
Chilling out. And obviously, what comes with that is more theosis. If you haven't caught on already with the names, theosism is almost basically Christianity.
Okay. Yeah, I figured.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm talking to chat, but like also you as well. But
Oh,
I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely thought you were still talking to me, but
No, I apologize. But
whenever you
see,
start, no, you're good. Whenever you talk to me, just let me know.
I'll clue you in. How about that?
Yeah, I like that idea. I like it. I like you.
We're gonna turn. I like you too, Dalton. We're gonna turn Dalton to a lore master, like Alex.
Dude, word.
And there's some other native religions in here as well. Moving on, the next tab is Kodwaria. Kodwaria is like Antarctica, basically. There's two official territories, one administered by the UN, the other administered by Cantus. Because you know Cantus loves to go places they're not allowed. And this is one of the newer regions too. But going down here, we got Laboka. Laboka is basically Africa in the Middle East. A lot of big countries, not as many countries, but a lot of them are big, which is why there's not many. And the largest religion here is Lahada, which is inspired off of Islam. You get a couple dream condos here and there. This is my brother's country. Actually, did I miss any? This is Alex's country right here in Illustrious. You can tell by the leader's name. And then Luke's coworker friend Brendan actually had a country in here, but doesn't really work on it anymore. But we still have him in there. So there you go. Mayfjall, very tiny region in the north. A lot of Theosis. It's based on the Arctic Circle, so like it's a very small bunch of countries up there. Other than that, there's not too much to say, but it's a really chill region. Next, Matafua. Now, Matafua is a it's the Pacific Islands. I think it is actually the newest region. We made it up, let's say, last year. There are Theosis here. There is actually a lot more traditional religions here too. Altorano is like basically inspired off of the Polynesian mythos, and Jabudu is actually supposedly it's like a splinter group of the Dream Conjurers. So there you go. This is Lauren's nation right here. Sea Shanty, fucking capital. Guess what her capital is called, though?
Is it something about Shibuya?
No, but that's what the religion's based off of, though.
Oh god, I don't know. What is it?
PP Creek. But let me see if you can guess Sebastian's capital. Chowkund and Talmere.
Oh, what's Sebastian? What's the name of Sebastian's thing?
This country's called Chowkunds.
What's up, gamers?
What's up,
What's
gamer?
up, dude? I don't know what.
Got an hour till Phasmophobia, so.
Oh,
figured it
nice. I don't know what Sebastian's name would be. He has a plethora of things that he could probably pick.
I guess here's a hint. What would be a saying you would attribute to him, or maybe even Taylor?
Ooh. Oh, is it this? Is it? I can't think of it.
His capital's called Poglandia.
Oh my god.
All right.
Oh my god.
A while
Because
ago.
aren't they like dukes or something of some stupid, like fake land?
Oh, Taylor is I think for his graduation gift they got him like a knighting or dukedom to like Sealand.
Like, yeah, something Sealand. That's what it is.
And that's really fascinating because like I don't know the legality of whether or not it could exist, but like it was founded in international waters, which is why they argued it could exist, and so they make their money by selling deeds and stuff.
Yeah, it's so dumb, dude.
I think they even have an international like soccer team, which is even funnier.
What was your flak tone?
37.
Nice, nice, nice.
Slowly catching up.
Dude, been watching a lot of Borderlands lore videos. I learned that why the sirens are together is just because it's like just a thing. They always get drawn toward each other no matter what.
Going back to now, I'm gonna deafen myself until I get through the rest of the regions, and then I'll go back to talking to them. Having seen this for a while now, you can probably guess Talmere and the next region is more based on Europe and North America. Talmere is actually one of the older regions. This is actually right here, the second country to be founded back in 2012. The story behind this is you'll see my original country is actually in Valscoria. We'll get to that in a second. When I made that country on nation states, it came out as a dictatorship. And I was like, oh shit, I fucked it up. I want to start over. And so I remade a new country, culturally based on Germany. That came later though. But this one was a democracy. I stuck around with this one for a while before coming back to the previous country, which you'll see in a second. But yeah, also a lot of theosis, as you might guess, in a region based off North America and Europe. I like to think of Talmere as historically and culturally European, but geographically North American, if that makes sense. You've got like these like big taigas in the north and mountains, and as you come further down, it's continental, and the south is like mesas and swamps and stuff near the end. So uh, certainly one of the more developed regions, as you can see all these docks that have been made with these countries. We have two players in here. We got some. We call the players people who have their own country. Everything that's not like bold black is made up by us collectively, whereas the bold black countries are other people, and they're entirely responsible for their own country and their lore, etc. So we had Sebastian's country, like I mentioned earlier. He named his leader after Brandon, which I thought was kind of funny. We have Nick as well. Nick's country is a really big country in Scoria. It's actually one of the big five, which I'll touch on briefly in a second. But this is also a big five member of the Baldish Federation. I'll just mention it now because I don't really know where I'm going with this. The big five in our version of World War II were the victors of World War II. It was the big five that set up the Scoria United Nations and basically formed the status quo, the basis of international affairs. So, as opposed to like a time like in our history, like real history, where like the Cold War occurred and all this infighting and proxy warfare, the Big Five rather, in spite of some minor political differences, they were all democracies except for two members, which were monarchies. Decided to work together instead of against each other. So that was very important in order for them to work that out. Is this playing audio? It's not showing up. That's okay. Next, Valscoria, which is actually one of, if not the oldest region, because it has some of the oldest countries in the canon, including my very own, Valmora. We've also got Gawaku, which is owned by Luke. Luke hasn't made an appearance on the stream yet, but he'll be here soon, I hope. Cantus, which is operated by Miles, but more recently we've kind of administered it and created some of the history for it recently because he's just been kind of out of it, which is totally fine. There's nothing worried about there. And then Verona, which is operated by Brandon. So, and as you can guess, and based on the inspiration of these countries, it's inspired off the Mediterranean. Normally, one would consider the Mediterranean part of Europe or like parts of the Middle East, but rather than keep them in Talmer or parts of it in La Boca, we decided to have it because it was made first, basically. So like it's kind of its own thing already. There was really no point to, merge it with existing regions, but so much as to be geographically conscious of where we put certain countries. So like the more Middle Eastern inspired countries, you'll see like Malrim, which is based off Lebanon, and even Agalon, which is in the south, based off Carthage, are more closer to La Boca, which has Middle Eastern countries and similar cultures, and vice versa with the countries that are based off Slavic nations are actually closer to the parts of Talmer that have Slavic countries. So just try to be a little conscious and consistent with that in mind. So, what you'll see actually in Valscoria is a lot of theosists, mostly different kinds of theosists though. The Hellenic Church didn't last as long when the church is split some 500 years prior to the Daltonian year, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. There's also a lot of Lahada countries in here, a couple of Dream Conjurers, a couple of mixed plurality countries in here, and a couple native religions that still flourish here as well. Moving on to last but certainly not least, this is a behemoth of a region. Visuna is just an amalgamation of various and very cool cultures. The region itself is like 4 or 5 big islands split up between almost 40 countries. However, 2 of those are city-states, but still, it's a very big and impressive region, I think. Originally, Vistuna was created a couple, like 5 years ago, and it was originally called Shadarim. What was in Shadarim was a country that's now moved to Mayfield, and the island of Samundar. Samundar is basically the Indian subcontinent in Scoria. It's a big island off the coast of Vistuna, in between Guwaku and mainland Vistuna. And it's split currently between like 5 or 6 countries, all based off cultures you can find in the Indian subcontinent. So like I could point them out right now. Aryapki, which is based on the Tamils, Batundara, which is like the remains of what, like the former stronghold of the unified Samandar country. What else? What else? What else? Dima is culturally similar, but it's actually in mainland Vistuna. Ganja Kata is also in mainland Vistuna. Garash Tomb was in Samandar, based off the Gujarat people. What else? What else? What else? There's so many countries in this region; it's so hard to find. But that's all alphabetical order. Ugh. Ramden, which is a really big player in the island of Samandar. In fact, Ramden was actually the first country in mainland Samandar to break free, and they're based off the Sikh Punjab region. Rathulhar, not too far under it, which is based off Bangladesh. Shokuktar, based off the Telugu, and Ulusanar and Varbana. And those are the countries that are just found in Samandar. There are still countries you could find inspired off of the Indian subcontinent, such as Gamka, which is a city-state, Shagari, which is here somewhere. There it is. It's kind of based off, I think you pronounce it Khalistan, which is like, I guess the best way to describe it in like layman terms would be like a greater Punjab. So like people from Punjab, Ramden, people from Ramden were escaping oppression from the Samandaris and came to mainland Vistuna, where they founded Shagari, and there was this big, beautiful country that they created. You've got a couple other interesting countries in here, so like Outer Valia, which is based off Romania, but in this context, it's more of a lost Vescorian expedition to Vistuna. You've got Datesland, which is actually created, or was created by Alois, as a friend of mine, and they're kind of like socialist neo-pagans from Talmere. So this will be easier if I explain it when I get the map open. So let me get the map open, so this becomes a little easier to describe and explain where everything is and how big the world is. Ultimately, I think that's what I should have been doing this whole time, but I just wanted to show you guys how we keep track of everything. And yeah, just how we keep track of everything, basically. So let me move over to the map. Check that out. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very proud of myself because we only recently just figured out. Oh, excuse me. I only recently just figured out how to do height maps, and so we implemented that into Scoria, and now we're left with this big old cool map. Now, this map is actually missing a few things because we do have labels for the oceans and the straits and so forth. We started making rivers, which you can kind of see, but they're not done yet. Excuse me. So let me go ahead and go back through each region so you can kind of get an idea of where everything is. So this here is Bosmaria, the region base of the Caribbean. You can see it's like a big cluster of islands, kind of close together, in between Talmere, Valscoria, Casavea, and you can even get a straight shot to Boca if you really wanted to. And then from there, here's Illustrious. Illustrious is actually quite big as well. And I didn't really mention some of the big players in Illustrious. You got Denzhou, you got Joa, which has the largest city in the region, Rokshire, which is the regional home of the Dream Conjurers, Duraland, which is the holy site of the Dura faith, as you might guess. Selamong and Pongam are also big players. Alice, that's Alex's country, which is a bit isolate, but still very important in the grand scheme of things. And Varela is also a big country that's relevant, and Siginuvi as well. I think next would then be Casavea, And you can see here, these are some of the more Theosis countries: Dalvisk, DNA, that's what we call it, Kilram, Tholranza, Gordium, Arasia, Raguas, and Alagosa. The rest of these, however, have their own native faiths. Islo is by far the biggest and most powerful country in the region, founded as a confederation of tribes that united and stayed united for a long time. They were very prominent in several major conflicts. The Great Southern War, which was Talmari forces coming down in the contemporary period, and then natives fighting against them. They also even fought in the Labokan War, which was considered the last major war before the World Wars. So a very interesting and very diverse country there. After that, let's go to Laboka. So Laboka is very interesting. I mean, I don't think that you'll find in this world, and call it biased if you will, but you will not find a boring country in this world. So let's talk a bit about some of these countries. Big players. I will go ahead and say Nidawai for starters, a very big and prominent Theosist force in Laboka. To contrast, you've got Kadal and I guess Rikarcha. Rikarcha is a more controversial country, accused of using weapons on its own people, which isn't great. Kadal is a very big, expansive desert, but rich in oil. It's one of those countries. Think Gulf states, but like a lot bigger. The city of Jarauri is actually similar, but they have a bit more leeway with this Gulf area that's shared between them and a couple of countries. There's Sam's country, Venetia at the bottom. They're Dream Conjurers. Actually, they're recent converts of the Dream Conjurers because they converted when one of their clergymen said they couldn't drink, and they're like, you know what? I want to drink. I want to be a Dream Conjurer. Who else can I talk about? Solganar and Solgariland had a very bad falling out in Civil War, which is why there's a line between them, as you can see. Engulfed by Solganar, however, is a very prominent and thriving city-state called Maiko. Maiko and Idiha were both very important battles during the Labokan War some 200 years ago, and it's because of that war that they remain independent. Aranka is where you would find a lot of ancient sites. It was the seat of several ancient empires, built very lofty and intricate monuments, many of them still standing today. Bashkan and Dorjistan are both Seleucid countries. They were the seat of the Fatez Empire, which was one of, if not the largest empire to come out of the region, and expanded basically across northern Laboka and even into parts of Elscoria. Do that. In fact, let me switch to white, so if I want to outline stuff, you can see it better. And the reason there's a line between them is Bashkan is a much more secular country and was founded by secular and republican principles, whereas Dorjistan remained, shall we say, the epicenter and remnants of the more monarchist and traditional aristocracy from the Fatez Empire after it fell. What else can I talk about? Kalantris is Brendan's country, and we've kind of turned it into sort of the crossroads of Laboka. So you've got like Lahada from the north, Theosis in the south, and more traditional native religions as well that are present in Kalantris. And over the years, centuries, a lot of people from Kalantris have gone to influence Labokan politics. In fact, I believe there is a man in history from Kalantris who went on to found what would become Kadal. He was a great warrior, traveled up north. The Fatez were like, hey, you want to help me control some of this? And he was like, hell yeah. So that's that. Midland and Trashyard were colonies of the Valdish Empire, which we'll talk about Talmer and its crazy big influence in the world and imperialism as well. But they were handed over to the Lincoln Empire, which we'll also definitely talk about in a second. And they kind of remain like sort of like the only colonial endeavors by outsiders coming into Laboka. There were other parts of Laboka colonized by people, but they were like never like hugely settled, so to speak. Barobi is actually the newest country, or one of the newest countries we added recently, including the city-state of Jarawi. But Barobi is a lot more interesting, I think, because it's actually based off Madagascar. And it's this really beautiful set of islands that kind of connects between Marafua and Laboka, sort of playing into the actual history of Madagascar, which is it was settled by, I believe, Malay and Bantu people, which is really cool. So, who's next alphabetically? I forget. It actually might be Laboka. No, it's Mayfield. Here's Mayfield. A couple big countries, not a lot of big countries. This is actually part of Alscoria, but it's so far north that it's still here on the map. So, Bayonuct is actually Brett's country. Brett's been on the stream a couple of times. We played Sea of Thieves with him. It's basically Scotland. And anything you can think of Scotland, it's in Bayonuct. Very proud, strong people groups, very traditional, and very chill as well. Like this whole region is like known for its civility and tranquility and peacefulness, despite the seemingly harsh climate of the region. You got Batilia, which is based in the Canadian Maritime provinces. Very prominent fishing industries, but more recently some new tech startups because, the current you kind of have to adapt with the times in order to stay afloat and have a thriving economy, as with many countries, I think. Nyalak and Katak are actually more inspired off of Inuit countries. I think one is more Aleutian, the other one's more Inuit. I don't remember, to be honest, but they actually served as the basis for a newer, how should we say, idea that came about recently to have a more northern Native American inspired religion that actually spans from Nyalak Katak into parts of Isuna, which have very similar cultural traits. So that was a very cool idea to see them connected in that way, I think. So that's Mayfield. Matafua is actually the newest full region that was created a couple months ago. You got Lawrence country of Sea Shantium. You've got Nimu, which is actually based off Easter Island, except think of it as more of a more expansive Easter Island. And in the past, when Matafua was originally settled, there was a Nimu Empire that spanned almost basically from here to here. Excuse me, gosh. And the affirmative proof that this empire existed is the presence of Moa heads on all these islands that stretch from here to there, which is likewise the symbol of Easter Island, is also the symbol for Nimu. So they bigger countries in this region, Temata, which is more based off the Maori culture, Ahiwai, a very traditionalist, elective monarchy, inspired off of Hawaii, Koaloa, which is the history is a little gray on this country. One might consider them separatists of Ahiwai because the cultures are very, very similar, but they're administered by different governments. So I think that's the idea there, to be honest with you. Kirawai is a colonial settlement set up by the Malinkans. This Scoria stuff sounds cool. Well, gee, thank you, Dire Dragon, who may or may not be one of the main contributors to the Scoria stuff. Jeez. Here I am, just explaining Matafua, and this guy shows up. Wow, jeez, whatever, dude. I'm just kidding, dude. I'm trying to think off the top of my head about other countries that I can talk about. Mare Daru, as it might imply, proximity-wise, is culturally similar to Rogueshire. Saint Charlotte, I think I'm pronouncing it right, I hope, is actually another colonial settlement administered by the Nectarians when they had a brief imperial period. They got independence rather quickly, but that part of the world of Matafua continued to speak and have Nectarian names. So there you go. So that's Matafua for right now, I think. There's still a lot to be said about a lot of countries. Matafua especially needs a lot of development for being such a new region. Who is next? I think it's Tal Maritime. We've got a lot to cover here. We've gone over Bosmaria, and Casavea, Laboca, briefly, Malafua, Mayfield, and I think that's it actually so far. So not really any of the big three yet. So still got Talmere, Valscoria, Vasuna in that order. You know what, Nick? As one of the, if not the main contributor to Talmere, would you like to explain to the stream, the VOD, uh, briefly what Talmere is, or what it means to you at least? And then I'll say a few words as well. If not, that's okay. I know there's a bit of a delay, so I don't know if he's typing something or. You know, while he's coming up with something, which I think is what's happening, if not, it's okay. Let me say a few words on Talmere. So like we said earlier, it's inspired up of history and culturally speaking European, but I want to say geographically North American would be the right context. Except for like one or two countries, you could argue are more North American than European. But over here we've got some of the what's the word Nordic countries: Hirland, Valdis Federation, Legion Mark, Ballmark, and I guess parts of Salicrude and even Northern Prokel. Would you consider Noric in that sense, that cultural sense? The Valdis Federation once spanned as an empire, literally across west to east, almost exactly following this line and Northern Prokel, and including Salicrude and the Vilder Islands. They had an empire. That empire also included Gordium and Bamberg, which is in Plasmaria, and Pangam, which is in Illustrious. So a very lucrative but interesting empire spread throughout the regions of Scoria. We could also briefly touch on the Varic countries, which are more Slavic-inspired countries: Danasa, Varkeia, Chevinach, Morvac, Dosova, Volganar, Grisvak, and even Arcosia. Arcosia is a little more Baltic, though, so you gotta be careful. Um, Chevinach and Varkeia have been basically fought over between the Danasan Empire and the Valish Empire for centuries. Uh, and these three countries down here actually recently independent as of the Danasan succession crisis, which I believe occurred 2 years uh, 2 years ago in the main timeline. I'll explain a bit of the timeline and the calendar in a bit, but as a result of the succession crisis, it transformed Danasa from a constitutional monarchy into a republic, and in the process of becoming a republic, these regions in southern Danasa broke free. So Desova, Volganar, Grisvak. However, I think Grisvak is actually a breakaway region of Morvac. For Talmere, imagine if Europe and North America were combined. The south is similar to the Iberian nations, France, and the UK. The central is similar to the Germanic nations, and the north is similar to Russia and Scandinavia. Yeah, that's a really good summary, Nick. Thank you. That is Talmere in a nutshell for you. And speaking of some of these central nations, in fact, probably the only cultural anomaly in Talmere would probably be Katarast, which is actually based off Armenia and has this very secluded, if not ancient, vibe to it and its culture. Sorry, Nick, I just saw your message now. Let me call you on Discord.
Oh,
Hello?
okay.
Sorry, yeah, I just saw your message on Discord.
It's all good. It's all good.
But how's it going?
It's going pretty good yourself.
We're just going through the countries. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Oh gosh, I just spilled water on myself. It's alright.
Um,
Wiping my fucking chin. I just kind of briefly explained Cataras, and I'm sure you've been hearing me talk about the other countries. I haven't really gotten to Nigeria in the south yet. I wonder if you want to explain that a bit, though.
yeah, I can. When we get to it, I will.
Okay. I mean, I was just kind of wrapping up Cataras. Uh,
Yeah,
you, you,
I
you would
yeah,
agree,
no,
like a
okay.
more ancient country, right? Like a more ancient vibe to it.
Yeah, it's Catarast in terms of like Talmara countries has stayed relatively throughout its history. It's like similar culturally speaking than most other Talmara nations.
Yeah. Turn that up a bit, actually. I briefly touched on the Nordic countries, Heerlen and Legionmark. I believe at one point Legionmark and Heerlen were in a union. It wouldn't actually surprise me, to be honest,
Yeah,
considering how culturally similar they are. One's Sweden, the other's Denmark, for those of you wondering.
yeah, pretty much.
Excuse me. And we talked about the Valdish Empire and the Valdish Federation, uh,
Yeah,
which kind of just basically leaves your corner of Talmere, essentially.
yeah, pretty much. I guess since we're on my corner of Talmare, I guess Jake has already mentioned me before, but formal introduction. My name is Nick. I'm one of the main contributors to the world building of Scoria. I guess my main player country, quote unquote, is the Republic of Nigeria, that massive country in southern Talmere. It's very similar to France. I would best way to describe it as Republican of France on steroids. Um, I mean, you're talking like revolution against the monarch, kicking out the monarch, going through a brief imperial period like France did. France did being one of the first nations in history to be a republic. Has been a republic for the past couple hundred years. Um, that's about it. Just like in real life, across the strait, you can see Malinka. It's basically England. Just like in England, they had a massive colonial empire. It was the Malinkan Empire. Was I don't know if the largest empire in Scoria or one of the largest empires.
Here, I'm
Um,
streaming my Discord so you can see it in real time.
yeah, I'm also seeing it. Also watching your stream too.
No, I got you. I'm sure there's a delay though,
Yeah,
so I figured this would
yeah,
be easier.
yeah. But yeah, for the longest time, Malinka and Nigeria had a bit of rivalry. In the past, like 150 years, they're now best buds. Because just like Europe, there is an economic pact similar to the European Union, known as the Talmer Union. In fact, very similar to the European Union with member states and all that. And then, as you know, Jake has already talked about, we have Baio, basically Spain. Aurora is best way to describe it is French Louisiana mixed with like the culture of the American South. It's got lots. It's a very rugged place. Very like it's kind of unfortunately kind of poor. They do speak Nigerian or basically French. Um, yeah, and then we have the micronation of is that Vaville?
Vaudeville, I call it like vaudeville, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. What do we describe it as? I know that's one of the recent additions.
Basically, Nolans.
Oh yeah, yeah. The official New Orleans.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a new addition as well. That, as well as you can see Las Espadas,
yeah,
completely engulfed by Bahia, is basically Vegas if it was independent. In other words, a very bad place to probably go to if you gamble and lose everything.
yeah, yeah. Some of these micronations I see are very just recent additions. And then we have how do you pronounce it?
I like
Torzia?
I like to call it Terugia or Teruza.
Toruja. Yeah. Toruja, Portugal, Um, based off the Portuguese. You know, at one point Bahia and Toruja were, in a personal union with each other, fought the Malincans and several Vascorian countries during the heyday of their imperialism. To the north of Nigeria, we got Procel. It's like kind of like a German-speaking Ireland. Not German, sorry. Like a Belgium Ireland in the sense that for hundreds of years they were under Malincan and Nigerian rule. Then they gained independence, fought wars against the Valds to secure more territory because there were ethnic Procalians living within the Volgish Empire. Volgish Empire, there was a military dictatorship at one point, and now it's one of the many other democracies in Talmere.
Boom. Thank you for those
Yeah.
summaries. I mean, sorry, you got
Yep.
anything else you want to say about them?
Yeah.
I apologize.
No, you're good. I mean, guess we're going up the list. Ballmark. Got a very odd history, but it's culturally similar to the Dutch, but it's had like an imperial period. It was at one point like it was like a communist country that was bombed the smithereens by the major powers.
I wonder who did that.
I know. Yeah, I'm looking at Valscoria with intense eyes. We have Sauerkraut. Sauerkraut, like imagine it's the if East Germany transported itself in the modern day, it's a one party socialist state. Now, the story behind it, at one point we did have a fella who was with us who uh, was basically a Nazi, and he made this country of Sauerkraut was like a Nazi, like safe haven or whatever. But he left the group and abandoned the nation. We took it over, and I'm just like, we're banning all the Nazi shit for like East Germany, for like inspired off East Germany.
Yeah, I guess like a funny way to put it was like this was uh, more akin to like when people were a little more involved from schools. Like a lot of our school friends were involved and had their own ideas as to what certain countries they wanted to create. And overall, this was a very unsavory and uh, not very well liked concept for a nation. But it stuck around for the longest time because mostly we didn't let it canonize or do anything really. And so then by the time they left, we, like Nick said, turned it into a very different country. So, but
Yep.
still, some of that history lingers, and that's kind of part of the timeline. But is no way like still reflected, so to speak.
Yeah, that's true. We've tried very much in part to keep there are fascist countries in scoring history, yes. Are there ones that still exist in Square? Yes, but if we're talking not like any Nazism or anything like that, that doesn't really exist in the current form of Square, nor I think it ever will again, just because, particularly myself, I don't tolerate that kind of stuff.
Now that goes double for me as well. I mean, if at the very least they may exist in historical context, like we briefly mentioned, but only to serve uh, I don't know what's the word. The point is that if there was a country that has unsavory views in the future, or even in the past, they wouldn't reflect the views of those who are curating and building this world.
Yeah, that is correct.
They kind of are set up to be like antagonistic and eventually capitulate at some point. So there you go.
Yep. Yep. Going briefly over back to north of Danas real quick, I want to emphasize that Danas and all the smaller countries beneath the breakaway states that came up during the Danasan succession crisis, they're not Eastern European countries. Most Eastern, well, not Eastern European, but a lot of like Baltic countries, or what we think of Eastern Europe, is like combined into Valscoria. Um, Scoria, these are more like I can't think on top of my head specifically, but think of like think of like the Chechens or like the various Russian oblast states,
Yeah, like
or even
culturally distinct groups within Russia, as if they got their own like an independence, so to speak.
yeah, and I think maybe it's Grisbach is based off the separatist movement going off in eastern Ukraine. I think it's the Donbass region is what it is.
Yeah, we can check right now. So Desova is actually another Cossack country. So like Moravec is like the Ukraine and parts of Georgia as well, like the country Georgia. Desova is actually more like I think it's called the Rostov Oblast, which is near Ukraine. It's like in southern Russia, and they have like a strong Cossack culture.
Yeah.
Grizvok is actually a Denisovan minority of Moravec, which separated. And it says here in my notes the Karelian Russians, but also Denisovan
Okay.
separatists. So um, let's assume the reason they're not part of Denasa is they're forbidden from joining Denasa, but they're basically Denisovans as well.
Yeah. So I guess Grisbach is closer to what Crimea is, where it's like you have a bunch of ethnic Russians living in Crimea who, put air quotes, voted to leave Ukraine.
Yeah. And then
But
Volganar.
in
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and but in our case in Scoria, they separated from Morvac during the Danasan succession crisis, but they tried to join the NASA. The international community was not going to let it happen.
No. It's like, alright, you get your independence, but that's about as far as you can get.
Oh.
And then Volganar, according to the notes in the sheet, Caucasus Russians. So another case of more Denisovan separatists. But maybe these guys see themselves more distant from Denasa, that they wanted to separate or wanted to be more politically independent in the region. Because right now Denasa is a federal republic, but one could assume it was more unitary, constitutional monarchy. So a lot of these regions that broke away didn't have as much liberty or autonomy to do what they wanted.
Yeah, that's I think a pretty decent summary of Talmare.
Yeah, I just really quick, I want to touch on some of the empires in Talmare because I covered a bit of the Valdish empire's proximity and how far they went.
Yeah.
So Tarugia, here's a little bit of trivia for you fellas. It was actually called Samoris up until recently. The reason it got changed is we felt it was a bit of a weird name for a country, even though there are countries in the real world named after saints, but it's a very large country to name after a saint. So instead, we opted for a new name, and then the name of the capital got changed to Samoris, which was the former name. But back in the heyday, like Nick mentioned, Tarugia and Baillo were a unified state, much like the Iberian Union in the 15 and 1400s. So, and their empire kind of didn't go super far actually, but it did uh, claim a large amount of like large chunks of territory in Bosmaria and like the northern Caspian coast. It kind of, in fact, kind of like ran like down here basically. I would say, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good illustration, I think.
They also own Alagosa, which got taken from them by the Valmorans in the Bain Valmoran War.
Yeah.
And like specifically, I would say like this part of Bosmaria, maybe even like here as well, because
Yeah.
Rukizia does speak Tarugian, so it's important to emphasize. As for Malinka, there isn't a great way to illustrate that on this map. Maybe in the future you'll see a map of the Malinkan Empire. Let's put it this way: about 80% of the world that speaks Malinkan was probably administered by them.
You know, the British Empire has a saying of the sun never sets on the British Empire. Quite literally, the same thing happened to the Malinkan Empire. You know, you could say, quote unquote, the sun never set on the Malinkan Empire. It was a transcontinental, like it had territory or at least ports on every single continent.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to put it. I mean, it's fascinating now to think about not only it owned like its neighbors at one point, so like Niteria, Aurora, Procal, or I should say parts of Procal, and then Dallas was a big one. A lot of Bosmaria, parts of Mayfield, parts of Asuna, so especially like down here with Erevan, Irodar, maybe even parts of like Drothmaka, Cardvenia, Agvukas. Um, Morrisland's another big colony. The city of Kirawai, maybe even parts of Matafua, and then the territory they took from the Valds in Trashyard and Meadland were also part of the Lincoln Empire. That's just only a fraction, really, but like some of the bigger chunks.
Yeah,
And the reason,
that's why.
sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna mention real quick. That's why in like similar to the real world, the lingua franca of Square. So if you want to do business or really diplomacy with other countries, best language to do it in is Malinka or basically English.
It's true. Obviously, that was a really good like in-universe justification for like English Malinkan. It's also Malinka is also where we get the calendar, the Daltonian calendar. I mentioned earlier in the stream, but never explained it. So the Daltonian expedition was undertaken. Is the right word? At the height of the Malinkan Empire. So this sailor, naval admiral, we could say, from the Malinkan Empire. Her name was Catherine Dalton. And she sailed, let's just say from here, like that, boom. It's across the globe. She basically proved, even though it was well known, but wanted to prove and make a point that the world was round. And this was seen as a very big historical event in scoring history. So when the Big Five orchestrated the creation of the United Nations, one of the first things they wanted to do was to create an international calendar, because much of the world was using like 10 different calendars basically, based on their religious and cultural preferences. And so one of the things that was brought up was, let's make a year zero based on when this expedition took place, because it kind of has some involvement from everybody. Viewing from England, I wonder who that could be. Gosh, it's so late there though, isn't it? That's okay. Thank you for joining us from England. I really appreciate it. So then, yeah, year zero is when that expedition finished, and what that equates to in the Gregorian calendar, because we did convert it at some point, is 1408. And we do have a formula for converting dates in and out of the Gregorian and Daltonian calendars, but yeah, that's the calendar. It's also divided into 13 months based on the International Fixed Calendar, which was a real proposition to use the Gregorian calendar. Yeah, it's like 1 a.m. Gosh, that's not that bad though, I guess.
Yeah, no.
But what was I gonna say?
You were on the was it the International Fixed Calendar?
That's right. So yeah, the International Fixed Calendar was divided into 13 months, 28 days each. And so we do that with the Daltonian calendar as well. So it's 13 months, 28 days each. There's an extra day on, I believe it's in the middle of one of the months that's accounted for somewhere. And each of the months of the Daltonian calendar are named after the Hellenic gods. I don't have work tomorrow, so we're chilling. Nice, that's good. Glad to hear it. And the Hellenic gods we will cover briefly in our next region, because that's actually where they originated and spread throughout much of, I would say, all of Talmarin, Bosmaria, and Valscoria, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even northern Laboca, because they're that close. So yeah, that's Talmair. Let's go to this region, Valscoria, which we touched on earlier, based off the Mediterranean. There's a lot of interesting things going on here. A lot of ancient cultures as well. So we talked about the Hellenic gods just now, which came from this country here, Rhena. Rhena is culturally similar to like ancient Macedonia, which is a bit of a stretch, I know, but like I guess you could say more Greek these days. Gosh, excuse me. And so the Hellenic gods were a large religion, a pantheon of gods, sort of based off the Greek gods, and even more inspired off of Germanic and like even other European gods. So it's like an amalgamation of all these different cultures that represent the Hellenic gods, which is why they were so successful in proselytizing to Valscoria, Northern Laboca, Bosmaria, and Talmere. So by the time when they want to adopt this calendar and name the months of the year after them, it was already very familiar, and so they're referenced quite a lot, especially in, uh, shall we say, sometimes people will name their kids after them, which is interesting. You'll find many cases where they're talked about as if like people still believe in them. In some cases, there are a few religions that still believe in the Hellenic gods, but I would say 2/3 of the world's major religions actually derive themselves from the Hellenic pantheon. So our renditions of Christianity and Islam and Judaism actually all stem from the Hellenic pantheon, just like different monotheistic evolutions of that faith. But that's enough about that. Let's talk a bit more about modern Reina and where it is now. It's actually a military junta set up in the wake of anti. So we call communism in Scoria collectivism. And there was a big war fought against collectivists, or shall I say totalists, which are more like Stalinists. And so that also created this paranoia and anti-collectivist sentiment in Scoria. And so when there were collectivists running for office in Hrena about 30 years ago, uh, Big Five members actually initiated a coup. And this coup still rules today with an iron fist over Hrena, and the repercussions of it are starting to be felt and may be dealt with soon enough. Um, let's talk a bit more about some other culturally similar nations. So you got Guacu, Piravi, Wisdo, Arkandros. These are all considered Yami Hrenik, Yami Wisden. There's a lot of different words you could use for this cultural group, but it's essentially like almost like the Greek world of Scoria. Guacu being the largest by far culturally and population-wise, and it's Luke's country based off Greece. Uh, there's a lot of history, a lot of ancient history on it, but there's a lot we still don't know, um, because we so like with these player countries, they're left to the players themselves, and it's in our best interest not to, um, what's the word, Nick? Like create anything for people without their permission. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, Scoria. What? Okay. I get. Okay. I'm gonna use the word historiography incorrectly in this context, but
Right.
like the history of Scoria, not the country, but the like creation of it. Like,
Like the meta history of Scoria.
yeah, the meta history of Scoria comes down to it was just a fun thing we did off of nation states a long time ago. It blossomed from there, and like um there are only a couple of us who are like super active in it or like do anything um with it, but we still got some player countries in there that aren't super active, and we don't force lore on them. uh
I think he cut out. I think Nick cut out. He said he has problems with the internet, which is unfortunate, but he'll be
things our
back.
own history that
Oh, there you are. Hello?
Yellow, can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out after you were saying stuff about lore.
Yeah, I heard you mention my yeah, I don't have a great internet provider.
It's all good.
uh yeah, part of the reason why I don't want to stream, because I'd cut out like every 30 minutes. um but yeah, it was basically a community project among friends, and to this day we have the rule that if you're a player country, we don't interfere with your lore without asking. We let you write your own history and kind of do what you want. Um, and your activity doesn't matter whether it's like me, Jake, or like another community member, Brandon, uh, player country Venom. We we still We don't. The point is, we have a policy of like non-intervention when it comes to lower building. Do at your own pace and do what you want.
Yeah, I guess in the context of not judging the content. Excuse me. Uh, like we mentioned with the other guy we kind of kicked out. The content will sometimes be criticized or judged, but that's very rare, most of the time. But as far as how much somebody puts into their nation, we'll never like try to get like try to judge them for that or whatever. Um, it's more like if there's a world event, we invite people to be in part of it. So like we'll like create a doc, and it's like this war, this event's happening. What is your nation or like people from your nation's response to this? And whether they choose to do anything or not is entirely up to them. But for the most part, we get a lot of cool events going and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, uh, as far as things I couldn't tell you about Gowaku, um, they did have an empire we discovered as of recently. It actually spanned to include most of the Guakian world, including Maripol, which is a new addition to Scoria, and parts of Semandar right here, Zeratar, Shagari, and Inatara. They are also the seat of the Warbowl and the football leagues, international ones. Warbowl is a sport kind of inspired off of rugby that's like taking the world by storm. As of recently, we've been creating international teams and brackets. There's a uniform creator we use as well for Warbowl uniforms. That's really cool. Um, oh, and they're also the main country of the Northern Orthodox uh, branch of Theosism, which is one of two, I would say, or I guess three major Theosis branches. And Orthodox is more prevalent in Valscoria than any other region. So, let's move further south. Paravi is a transitory island country. One part of the island is more similar to Guaku, the others were culturally similar to Wisdo. And over the history of its existence as a sovereign entity, it's been occupied by both powers repeatedly during world wars and brief conflicts when it wasn't part of the empire. The Guakuan Empire, that is. It's a very diverse and interesting country. Wanted to work more on it, honestly, because we can have a little more, uh, shall we say, creative control over Paravi than, say, other countries. And then Wisdo is a very infamous and storied country. It's actually one of the oldest countries in the canon, and was always set up to be like an antagonistic villain, if you will, to a lot of the player countries. Wisdo is like a dictatorship with a state cult that is inspired off of ancient faith, but mixes in worship of state figures and historical figures as well that ruled Wisdo with an iron fist. A lot of the island names are like, I guess, Valdish. I don't know if that's more of like um, the way I interpret that is so as much of the world wanted to learn Malinkin as lingua franca, Wisdo did like a five-head move and decided, you know what, we're gonna do Valdish despite everybody and be closer with some of our Valdish allies because there are a couple times actually Wisdo will work with other countries, um, and one would assume the Valdish Empire was one of these countries. So yeah, um, they were part of the Guakian Empire, but we don't really have any information as to how they left, whether that was violent or peaceful otherwise. Remains to be seen, but should be interesting to talk about someday. Just the group chat chilling out. All right, let's move further down here before we go up to here. We have Savarek and Venom. I'll kind of talk about in the same vein because they're very similar countries, culturally and historically. Venom is our friend and community member Brandon's country, culturally inspired off of Italy. Venom has a long and storied history of being divided and reunified over the course of centuries. Uh, Prior to its Republican era, it was reunified by a folk hero whose name I don't remember, but they basically rallied around him, much like Garibaldi in Italy, to reunite Venerum and fight against the Fateh Sultanate, which we also talked about earlier in the stream, which ruled basically northern Laboca and this rough region of Valscoria. I don't know if it really ruled parts of mainland Venerum, but definitely Odilla, Flamina, and Savarak were also part of the Fatehs. So like I said, culturally similar to Italy, very devout populace of they're called Tarsician Theosists, and it's like a reformed branch of Theosism, basically Protestantism is another way to put it. They had a brief empire which included, it's actually probably the largest of the big five empires, or one of the largest. So they owned parts of Semandar, Borbama, and Ramden. They owned Varala, Cameo, Midirani, Badai, and Wainir in Illustrious. They also owned the city-state of Adiha and this half of Arankah, as well as I really want to give this place a name, but it's basically this region from Nidawai to Swatu. So they had a lot of land they grabbed from the Labokan War and other conflicts as a result. I don't know, Nick, any words on Veteran?
Not much. Yeah, no, not much to say on Venom other than what you have described. Going back to the meta of Scoria, Venom has had several identity crises with what region they want to be in, but they finally just said, "All right, we're gonna do Valscoria." So there was that. They used to go by a different name called Platypus Stan. And you can guess what their favorite animal was by that name. But yeah, not much to say. Venom is probably the closest Val scoring country that did legit real life European colonization efforts. Of resource extraction and putting being having little regard for cultural or religious ethnicities and who was in power and who wasn't and stuff like that.
That's a good way to put it. I know we kind of I did lump Savarak into this description. So if Veteranum is Italy, Savarak is Sicily. There's not too much else to be said about Savarak other than we could say it was ruled by the Fatehs earlier than mainland Veteranum was. And here's a little bit of trivia. One of the families that would form the Valmoran royal family, the Atzuris, were from Savarak. So there you go. Much like in real world European royal families, oftentimes, and this is the case for Valmora, which we'll get to later, the royal family not from the country itself. So there you go. I'll kind of lump this next section with this and Maurum. Now Maurum and Agalon are very culturally similar. These countries, they all occupy these islands. This island group right here, let me do this. It's actually called Kisilania. It's a very funny but interesting name. It's just the name of the island, and it's shared between these four countries of Herisia, Agalon, Teleria, and Nilius. Where should I start? Let's go with Agalon and Maurum. So Agalon and Maurum are, I would say, two of the three. So Teleria is a third. Lahada or Muslim countries in Valscoria. These were the most greatly influenced by the Fateh Sultanate. A lot of people from the Fateh territory in Laboka came to settle in Agalon and Teleria and Maurum. With the exception of Teleria's more linguistic or cultural anomaly. You can kind of tell from the capital and maybe even the name a bit that it's based off Albania. So there's that. As for Agalon and Maurum, they speak what's called Mauramic, which is sort of an evolution of Balaic, which was spoken in the northern part of Laboka. Agalon especially has an interesting history as sort of being one of like the crown jewels of the Moranic Empire. So pre-Theosism and pre-Laboka, there were like two large ancient empires of Valscoria. That's the Hranic Empire and the Moranic Empire. They both kind of occupied their respective geographic, shall we say, circles, and they would occasionally have naval wars and battles and even fight across Venom and Wisda. But I mean, these were like ancient empires that don't have a lot of history established yet, but I hope to work on that in the near future because uh, trying to stress the what's the word, influence of Hrena or Hranic culture in Valscoria is very important. To have Marum there as well, I think would be very interesting as well. So there's that. Um, so like I said, Agalon, Marum very similar. Toleria, Albania. Toleria and Marum, I believe, were actually administered by the Vedian Empire at one point.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Uh,
Okay, about the Venian real quick. You can still see remnants of the Venian Empire, in that there's like these like a lot of like exclave cities across Valscoria and I think maybe Laboka that have very close cultural ties or are a part of Venian.
yeah, I don't know if they still own these cities in Laboka, but you could still, like these purple dots are Coria, Suasa, Olvia, Lava, uh, former strongholds of the Vedian Empire that didn't want to leave just yet. So they're still a part of Venom. Let's talk about Harissia and Nihilius now. So Harissia is actually culturally similar to this part of Alscoria, which we'll get into just a second. These are the Daramic nations. They're more similar to like South Slavs, um, and we'll discuss the links between these guys and the guys in northern Talmere that are also Slavic as well. Harissia gets its name from the ancient, I shouldn't say ancient, but the medieval word for when the Fatez administered this island. It was called the Harichuv Government. And, gosh, I keep burping, I'm sorry. The Harichuv government gets its name from a Seleuts or Fatez translation of the entire region. So it's almost like Harissia is calling itself Valscoria, the country, but like in a different language, which is funny. That's only because they didn't really have a national identity or a name for uh, their land until the Fatez came around. So they just stuck with Harissia, and that's that. After the second Valmoran Fatez War, which also included Venom, so it's really like the second Valscorian Fatez War, Harissia was annexed by the Valmoran Empire, and I believe at the same time Teleria was annexed by the Vedians. So there you go. Then after the Valmoran Empire dissolved, they got their independence, and I'd say things are pretty okay over there. Culturally similar to Bulgaria. So there you go. Nihilius. Nick, you want to talk about Nihilius for a bit?
Yeah. Nihilus. I can't speak right now for some reason. Nihilius was um, was once part of Cantus, which is culturally similar to Niteria. But there was the whole Niturian Empire, which is similar to like Napoleonic France, which conquered like 75% of Talmera and then tried to conquer Casvea, and it all fell apart. Well, the surviving members of I think the name was imperial name was like Thrace. Yeah, I think the surviving members of the Thrace family, mind you, who were executed by by the Republican faction in Niteria, fled over to Cantus, and Cantus granted them land, which is modern day Nihilius, and took it upon themselves to have cities who had Nigerian names and Nigerian culture, and kind of, while modern day Niteria and Nihilius have relatively good relations, it's a reminder of um, Nigeria's empire and its failed attempt to kill off all of the imperial family.
It's kind of like imperial Nigerian transplants, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a bit about Cantus. Now, Cantus is a very interesting country. Again, one of the older countries in the Scorian canon, created by friend and community member Miles. It's had a very interesting and complex history and sort of some identity crisis as of late, much like Veteran has. But what we've done with Cantus recently is combine the old with the new, because formerly it was prior to the creation of Illustrious, it was actually a more uh, imperialistic, like Japanese state. And when that turned out not to be the case anymore, becoming more culturally similar to Nigeria, in Miles' own words, we decided to let go of that, and instead the honors of having a Japanese country went to this country, Narukami, which is now like our Japan essentially. But keeping that in mind, Candace's Japanese inspirational, I guess, meta history mind, if you will, we recently decided there was a point in history where people from Narukami, say aristocrats and maybe even like a shogun, married into the Cantini royal family, and thus reestablishing that as canon, which I think would be a really cool uh, period of Cantus to further explore. So they got like French, Japanese, samurai, knight warriors. Make of that what you will. Also, as of late, they used to have their own branch of Theosism called Southern Orthodoxy. But when Miles filled out the survey, which I touched on earlier, he put Dream Conjuring as the major religion. So Southern Orthodoxy never existed.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, well,
sorry, go ahead.
no, you finish and I'll make my comment.
I was just gonna say. So now, like basically, the new lore is the Narukami families or rulers that came to Cantus brought over Dream Conjuring along the way with them.
Yeah, as I touched on before, with like player countries and stuff like this happens where there are complete retcons, and we're like, okay, we need to go back. Is it convenient? Not really, but we do it because we're nice guys, and Miles is one of the OG community members to score us. So we'll grant him the honor of the retcon.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's his country as well. So
Yeah.
if there's ever a time where like a retcon needs to be had, we try our best to integrate that into the lore as best as possible. Especially with respects to stuff we liked about the old lore, if it's possible. The one thing that's never changed about Cantus, though, interestingly, is the shape. It's always been this really cool, unique crescent island. Arcadia's always been the capital of Cantus as well. And actually, one of the oldest territories ever in the scoring canon is Skybridges, which has had different shapes over the years, but it's kind of maintained this general structure. On older maps, which we might see later if I try to record the map evolution video, you'll see there's actual bridges marked on the map that connect sky bridges. It was supposed to be like this weirdly futuristic colonial endeavor, kind of reflecting a time where the technological level of Scoria wasn't like codified as well. So we had like floating cities and all this other crazy junk happening. So futuristic aesthetics as well. Let's go head over to the Duramic world now, finally. The reason I left Arcandros out of the Yambian conversation is their historical association with a big player in the Duramic world, probably the biggest Duramic country actually, Valmora. Valmora is my country. It's actually, I believe, the first country to be created in Scoria and kind of what spawned this endeavor. And I'm very proud to say that I continue to work and develop Valmora, and I'll show you guys here in a second what I mean. But to start things off, I guess the inspiration for Valmora has kind of changed over the years. Originally, it was kind of like half Serbian, half Italian, because I thought that was an interesting cultural blend. But with Veteran coming in, or Platypus Den, as it was at the time. I decided to kind of eliminate some of that, and that allowed me to develop the country further and make it a little more diverse, I think. And then over the years, they kind of transformed into Serbia, Montenegro, but now Yugoslavia. So like Valmora is basically a monarchist Yugoslavia, if you will. The history, briefly, is Hellenic city-states being established in the southeastern part of their country. You can see Vordovan was probably the most prominent. At the time, it was called Halimdar, before it was destroyed and rebuilt, and then called Vordovan. And then they formed what's called the Savam, which was a council of different city-states across the country. But the Savam ultimately failed, and there was a war that was had, and that kind of created a line between a couple of the major kingdoms before a couple centuries later, and for like a century onward, or like several centuries onward, there were 2 or 3 major kingdoms in Valmora. And what's over here, which is called the Obekrenia, or the West Kingdom, made up of these 3 smaller kingdoms over here, eventually with the help of some friends, and by friends, I mean these guys, took over the east, took over Vordovan, and then unified the country within the next 200 years or so. And immediately following that, they formed the Valmoran Empire, which included Arkandros, which is a culturally Yamian country. They speak like a Yamian language, so like more Greek and not Slavic. But you've also got Rialea, which is like Slovenia, Gorza, which is interesting. We'll talk a bit more about them in a second. Izvokas, which the southern portion was administered by Cantus, and then formerly part of Izvokas was Tavibos, which split apart recently, about 20 years ago, in a coup, or like a civil war, I guess. As far as other Valmoran colonies, Arcosia was purchased from the Danasan Empire. Alagosa was one, as we talked about in the Bayan Valmoran War, and Myko was also administered by the Valmorans after the Lobokan War. What else should I say? As far as like modern Valmora, after World War II, the empire dissolved. It was at the best wishes of the late emperor, or the Valmoran word is called Vizoda, Tamovalan or Tamola. He's got a lot of nicknames here. He died, and on his deathbed decreed that Arkandros should be independent, as per the wishes of the Arkandries minority in Valmora and Arkandries in Arkandros. And that kind of spawned the Arkandries Civil War, which was kind of like a domino effect of former imperial territories and colonies declaring independence, which they did, and there was no protest there. And then an actual Valmoran Civil War occurring in the 580s and 590s. It was probably the most recent major conflict the Valmorans have been a part of. It included, we could say, volunteers from several ideologies, either in support of the constitutional monarchy, which included allies of Valmora at the time, as well as volunteers from collectivist nations who supported the collectivist People's Republic of Valmora. In the end, though, the constitutional monarchy, the loyalists, won and then reestablished control of the island. This was all about, let's say, 30, 40 years ago from the current timeline. What else there's a lot more I could talk about, because there's a lot I have developed on Valmora. In fact, I could even show you what I mean briefly. Let's move over to this. So as we saw earlier in the stream, there was a sheet just for Scoria. This is a sheet just for Valmora. I know a couple other people with their countries have done this as well. I like to think I have a lot of mine written down, so I'll touch on this briefly. So like, this kind of describes what you can find in this sheet. There's different ideas I have going on, like different historical events, maps, other facts about the country. A link of these docs, wars, families, characters, other events, foods you can find that are commonly eaten, holidays that are celebrated, including feasts of the saints, which are important because this is an Orthodox country, and so for the case of Valmora and Guaki and other Orthodox countries, most families have a patron saint. You pick a saint, or it's just whoever your family historically worshipped, and you have a feast day. And so that feast day, you celebrate your family saint on that day when it falls in the calendar. There's also the Feast of All Saints, which is another important religious event. A couple other holidays as well. We got musicians, which are actually based on real Balkan musicians, which I was pretty proud to compile together. It was a very interesting journey, getting all this Yugoslav music across different genres and what have you. This also highlights the different regions in the country as well. And then you got flora and fauna, foreign relations in a nutshell, the military, so on and so forth. There's like more lists that talk about like kings and rulers and stuff, but maybe that's for another time. The point is, really, I developed Valmora probably the most out of these countries, and I think for good reason, because like this is my main country, and it's existed for so long. So there you go. We briefly mentioned these guys. They're actually relatively newer countries. When we added them into Valscoria a couple years ago, they were very loose bases for them, and they're still continuing to be developed. The one exception is Gorza. Gorza's actually been around the longest out of these newer countries, and it's got a very interesting and tragic history. So Gorza's changed hands between Vascorian or Vedian princes, the Fateh Sultanate, finally the Valmorans, before finally becoming independent, but not really in its best interest. See, actually, of the colonies that the Valmoran Empire had that got independent, Gorza kind of was forced to get independent. Excuse me. It was kind of seen as like a financial burden to keep around at this point in the timeline, and so they were just let go basically. Gorza's also suffered a couple of financial crises. One of the most notable ones as of late was when the leader of the country gambled away its treasury, which caused a huge scandal. If you can't tell the drift I'm getting at with Gorza, it's actually one of the more memey countries, and we have a lot of these, but like Gorza especially is one of the more memed on countries. As an inside joke, Aurora is also up there. Vizintia, which I don't know if I mentioned, is actually still part of the Malincan Commonwealth, another meme country. So, holy, yeah, that's Gorza. Nick, any more words of Valscoria?
No, not really. Valscoria is not my region in particular, or within my region. Not that I don't care about Valscorian interests, just like.
No, I got you.
I've developed my nation to where it is not tied to Valscoria, some of the other nations.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I didn't point this out, but Valscoria actually has the most player countries in it. You've got at least 4 of them. With the remnants of a couple old ones that were turned into non-player countries, such as more recently Maripol. Maripol was actually, I believe, the second or third country to join Scoria ever, back in 2012 when it was originally called Meropolis. It was created by a friend of mine on a game, and he came to nation states, and we plopped it on the map. But a couple months after that, never heard or seen him again. So it was kind of remade as a tribute to that country existing in the first place, and more of as an excuse to have more culturally Yamian countries, because there's not much we know about them, and I think it's interesting to have a bit more in that sphere of influence. So as far out as it is, it seems it's actually culturally similar to these guys right there. And I think on that note, that's basically Valscoria. And last but certainly not least, oh my god. I mean, I know we talked about how many countries are in Vistuna, but I don't know if we talked about a lot of the big players or events in Vistuna as well. Let's start off by saying Vistuna is probably, and for good reason, the last major region to like I guess modernize would be the right word. Like
Yeah.
it's not like they were always technologically lacking, or even to this day, like you can like most countries in Vistuna, you would assume have like electricity and plumbing and water, etc. But one of the greatest drawbacks or events in Vistuna that led them to fixate on things otherwise was called the Thousand Years' War. And so you can kind of see this line that's divided up here on the border of Drathmaka and Tholodos and going down here. So we had two major religions of Visuna when we created the more expanded version. I mentioned that Visuna was once literally just Vedanum when it was called Padapustan and Samundar. But when we expanded Visuna, we created like 2 or 3 new religions. So on this side with Drathmaka, you've got the Jerdikani religion, and on this side with Tholodos and Niramak, you've got the Aguilari religion. To keep it simple, these faiths carved out big empires. So Niramek was the head of the Aguilari states that spanned from Rashur, Tholodos, Tasunak, Setsudira, Ukrel, and Akjalab, whereas Drathmaka was the center of the Jerdikani faith and owned land in the Kerjak Federation, Kardvenia, parts of Erevan, Agvukis, and these were states that had long drawn out wars, as the Thousand Years' War kind of would insinuate. And it's because of that much of mainland Visuna was technologically lacking or impaired, apart from the countries on the coast. So, like these island countries over here with Bagior, Magashold, Iridar, Ferdomar, and even like southern Kardvenia, Datesland, Laktul, Maritsak, even Chincheria, I would say modernized quicker than these states who were at war with each other for thousands of years. The war finally ended during the World War II when an effort from when an effort called the Army of the Black Sun was formed initially in response to the murder of a prominent Carvimian figure. Was formed, and they used this momentum built from the retribution desired to avenge this figure, to conquer more territory for the Carvemians, and to actually just bring an end to the war. The Carvemian Army of the Black Sun modernized so quick and so fast and so effectively that it brought the Thousand Year War to a standstill. And thus, when the United Nations was brought in, they kind of explained the situation and heard out from both sides and tried to carve out as fair borders as they could, because Thousand Years War kind of blurs the lines, especially for that long, and people will be claiming each other's territory, and so as to not incite further conflict, the lines drawn then remain the lines drawn today. Let me see. A couple other countries we can talk about in Vistuna. Let's talk a bit about the Samandari sphere. So Samandari, as we talked about, was once a big combined island country. This whole island right here, once an empire. It owned all this land, plus parts of northern Alistrius, southern Vistuna, including Inatara, Shigari, Farandima, Optiraji. It's only after the fall of the empire, it was carved up, briefly divided, reunified again, and then carved again from imperial powers in Valscoria. So like when the Vedians and the Guakians set out to conquer land for their empires, they came here and divvied it up again. What else can I talk about for Vistuna? Interestingly enough, this island alone has spawned probably 3 or 4 major faiths. You've got Injamari, which is based off Hinduism. You've got Suvaka, which is based off Sikhism. And you've got what's called... what's it called? I'm going to try to remember without looking at the sheet. You know what? Wait. No, it's called. I gotta look it up. I don't know. Yaluda. Yaluda, which is actually based on the Baha'i faith. So, yeah. Three major faiths that came off of Semandar alone, which is pretty impressive. Trying to think what else we could talk about. Nick, any words on Vasuna you want to add?
Nah. Master is just big. That's all. And you can kind of divide Vasuna into like 4 parts. You have the main what are the 2 major religions on the continent?
Agolari and Jerdikani.
Yeah, Algalari and Jurikani. You can buy that up. Then you have the Samandari portion of Vesunet, and then you have whatever is going on where Idrik Sami, where the country of Idrik Sami is. That's basically it. It's our, I'd say like our most like diverse continent.
Oh yeah, without question. It's pretty remarkable we can fit this many countries, but still have like a lot of land left over. Because like we were originally, when we were recreating Basuna in its present form, it was pretty remarkable. We tried to we had our list of countries we wanted to create, carve them up, or like, okay, do we need more countries? Because like it's pretty big, and we're just like, let's just leave it here. It'll be probably more trouble to make more countries later, honestly.
Yeah.
There are a couple new additions to Vasuna. As of a month or 2 ago, the city-states of Gomka and Ganjakata, as well as a new country, Boran. When we were made aware there really wasn't like a Mongolian country, we decided, you know what, this is pretty good real estate, I think, for a Mongolian country. So that's Boran for you. A couple other notable countries we can talk about. We talked about Datesland being administered by Alois, who's a friend of mine. Kind of just created it and kind of left, but there's no reason to kind of change it or touch it. It's a pretty unique country in its own, so I think it merits its stay. Marit Sak is actually started as a penal colony from the Danasan Empire. So the Danasans, when they briefly owned parts of Hirland that enabled them to go across the ocean, sent prisoners or ethnic Kataras people, Katars they're called, to Vasuna to kind of exile them and resettle in Kataras, which is a very tragic part of the history of Kataras. But nonetheless, they endured, survived, got independent, and then when the Renascence were expanding in their totalist regime in World War II, they fought back successfully. Bagior, Irodar, Ferdamar, Magashold. Very interesting situation going on in this island here. Ferdamar is perhaps, I believe, the only majority Lenkoru country in the world. Hrena has a plurality with Lenkorus, but it's not a majority. So Lenkoru is actually the first successor faith from the Hrenic pantheon, and it's based off Judaism. So Lenkoru would spawn Theosism, and Theosism would spawn Lahada, much like the Abrahamic religions we're accustomed to today. So that's very interesting. Bagior and Magashold, both Hungarian-inspired countries, but except Magashold is actually a religious, I don't want to say anomaly, but same people, different faith, essentially. And that is already enough to merit a divide. During the height of the Bagiorian Empire, they were suppressing the religion that was favorable in Magashold, which inspired the Magashold Revolution, led by, surprisingly, Chevinin revolutionaries that came over from Talmer. And with the help of the Valmorans, they also ended the war pretty quickly. So
yeah,
that's one way to do it. Iridar is actually a remnant of the Malikan Empire as well as Erevan, except in the case of Iridar, I believe it's actually a Minotaurian state, not like Minotaurs, excuse me, but like kind of like South Africa. I don't want to say it's like apartheid, but in the same vein as a minority class of a cultural group ruling over a majority that's different, right? You would say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure the area is actually also ethnically Bagiorian, or it could be something else entirely. But the ruling class are Malinkan descendants. What else can we talk about? We talked about the impact the Cardvemians had. We didn't really talk about what the Cardvemians are inspired off of, and they're kind of like Finland, basically. Finland, if they had more uh, paganistic, druidic aesthetics, because the Jerdikana religion is very spiritually, uh, it's a very spiritual religion attuned with nature. Uh, there's mentions of like sky gods and certain burial rites, prayer wheels that are involved, and manuscripts that are very important to them. In many ways, it's kind of based off Tengriism, but a little more of that, I guess, like Turkic and even like very slightly amounts of like Nordic paganism as well. So it's a very interesting religion, and it's still very prevalent. Drothmaka practices Jerdikanism as well. Not the same as Cardvemian uh, Jerdikanism, which is why they're separate countries. Parts of Chicheria, Akvukes, you could even argue like Northern Arabian may practice it. Sesrothmaka and Cardvemia. Niramak, the spiritual epicenter of the Agolari faith. So like whereas Jerdikani has an emphasis on the sky religion, or like sky, there's an affinity with Niramak and water. Water plays a very important part in the Agolari faith. And there's many ziggurats in Niramak, frozen solid because it's a very cold, very rugged country in Niramak. Rashur was a historic border state of the Agolari Empire, and kind of maintains that sort of rugged discipline and culture because I believe it's actually a military dictatorship. So they very much lean into their historic um, geopolitical importance and role. So there's that. Another cultural anomaly and I guess linguistic isolate in Vesuna Tasunak. Tasunak's based off the Basque people. There's not much on them right now, but it's a very large country that has almost nothing except for the faith in common with its neighbors, so it's pretty interesting. Ukrel and Akjalad were actually. Ukrel was created by Brendan, who created Kalantris, and kind of wanted like a small, very hostile warrior culture country. It's a compliment that Akjalad was also created in the same vein as the antithesis of Ukrel. So there's a lot of common history there, and animosity there too. So there's that. Let's talk a bit more about Zeratar and Tholodos are actually culturally more akin to like Valscorians. Tholodos is often, or rumored to be, the original home of the Valscorians, or the modern Valscorians at least. The prevailing theory now is Hrena is actually the originator of all of Valscorian and Talmaric cultures, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. More and more researchers within Scoria are beginning to believe that Suna was the home of humanity, and from there everyone came into existence and spread out across the world. But yeah, Tholos is believed to be like the cradle of what people might find, anthropologists might consider to like the beginning of like Valscorian ideas. Even the pantheon may even originate from Tholos. There's a lot more to discover there as well. Whereas Zeratar is kind of proof that that's the case because you see it's like halfway between Tholos and Hrena, and already worships the Hrenic pantheon. Some could argue like it's the Zeratarian pantheon. The country itself is named after Sirator, which was one of the Hrenic gods. I think the Hrenic goddess of celestial bodies. So there you go. That's one thing to prove that for you. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about for Vasuna, Nick?
Nah, none that I can think of. Asuna is like uh, one of the more recent continents we added because it's so big. Because it's so big, there's still lore that we need to write about or come up with.
Yeah, it's probably going to be less challenging because of all the different uh, things that are going on. That's also true with all these countries. You know, for a 10-year, nearly 10-year project, there's still a lot left to write and be said. Festuna
Hmm.
especially because of, gosh, excuse me, how much there's in the country, the continent already. So, but I mean, that's I want to say brief, but like the stream's been going for almost 2 hours. Uh, summary or tour of Scoria. Uh, in the sense that we're
Yeah.
touching on a couple of these countries, but so go
Did
ahead.
you have did you in the stream before I came in? Did you talk about? Now you talked about Watafua. Did you touch on Illustrious, Bosmaria, and Mayfield?
Yeah, I kind of went in order, basically.
Oh, okay.
Alphabetically, yeah. I think we spent more time on Talmere and Valscoria, which is fine because they're also the most developed.
Yeah.
But maybe actually we can make up days where we just work on our region on stream. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is Scoria, sort of simplified. This will definitely not be the last world building stream. As I said, I think we'll have days where we work on certain countries or regions. Maybe I can work on them on stream with people, have feedback from people like watching, see what they'd like to see explored, or take their suggestions as to what we should input in the country or the regions. Also, this is also not the end of the stream either, because I actually wanted to go and work on a very interesting project that I had the idea of recently. Let me flip over to this. For those of you that may or may not recognize this, this is World Painter. And World Painter allows you to create worlds in for Minecraft. You can paint your own worlds. There's tutorials on how to make certain biomes appear and import height maps, which is what I just did here. This is a height map of Scoria. And you can see it's a little weird looking and honestly, I don't know how friendly this is to the stream because it's kind of bouncing around as I'm looking at it. What I might do actually is stream the screen and not the application. That could be why. Let me do that real quick. Let me change that. Screen capture, new source. That one. There we go. I think that's better. So we got this here. I don't know how to scale this is. I see all these weird islands in the background, so I don't know. Like, oh wow, okay. This is also like the first time I'm using this, so I don't know like what's the word? I don't know what this is. If that's like more world behind it, and that's how tiny this is. It also looks very rugged. So what I'm interested to do, save world as. I saved it. Export the world to a Minecraft map. Okay. I'll try that. So like what I've done here is a very basic height map export. I don't know how to scale this is, or even how this is gonna look. So we're gonna find out right now. And if it's not good, we will just come back to it right away and fix it up. The scale looks interesting because like this is 200 blocks. This line, and that's quite a lot. What I'm actually gonna do, let me swap over to this because I don't want to share that. Oh shit. Well, oh, fuck. That's okay. All right. Why don't we go join our buddy Dalton? What do you think, Nick? Is Nick still there? Let me stop streaming. He's muted. I'm gonna let him know I'm gonna go back to the main server. Into the Discord. But the idea of this map that I'm trying to make in the spirit of it is it's Scoria in Minecraft. And I want to use it for a server. So yeah, that's the intention here. We're trying to make Scoria as big as we can without going crazy. And then making them into a server. Hello, hello? Hello?
What up, dude?
What up?
Are you done streaming?
No, I'm not done streaming, but I'm done explaining Scoria for right now.
Oh, word.
Right now, I am trying to make a map for Minecraft, and
Nice.
just wanted to rejoin with you because you were alone. And I felt
Oh
bad.
yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. No, it's my camera. I'm gonna talk to them. But yeah, I was gonna ask Jake, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Nice.
Let me go back to the screen capture. That's easier to look at.
I've been watching like Crusader Kings 3 videos lately. I want to get back into the game, and right now it's fun. My king, I'm playing as the king of Novgorod. Straight up, my son is gonna be the greatest ruler ever when I die. Apparently, an attempt on my life was made.
My God.
No,
Very nice.
but I gotta wait till my prestige gets up so I can declare more wars.
Whoops. Let me I'm gonna close out of this. WhatsApp.
What would I need? Yeah, see, I need 75 prestige. I don't have. So
So we have 3 minutes on this export. I don't know.
oh shit! Hold on. I need somebody to look after my child.
It's a very rugged looking country. I mean, I can already see issues with it right now, but I really want to see what this translates to, honestly. Excuse me. Like, I can see, like, where Sijanuvi is, it's just water, which isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Same with parts
So
of
how,
Casabea.
you may have explained it to the stream, but what? Oh, okay. So how does this work?
So World Painter, you can use to, you can, like, create custom Minecraft maps with it. But what I'm doing specifically, there's a part of it where you can import height maps. So me not doing any of the work and scaling it a certain way created this. And so now we're going to export it as a Minecraft world and try to load it up. It's going to wherever I have Minecraft stored on my C drive. So
Okay.
there's definitely going to be some adjustments, but I'm really curious how big and to what extent this is going to make it. But I think the scale is good, but it's a very rugged looking map. In fact, why don't I go ahead and load up Minecraft? Well, not load it up, but like, what's the word? Get it set up.
I want to know how I can get more concubines.
We'll go on. We'll do 1.17. World exported in Minecraft. Wow. Statistics: land area 2,163,427 blocks.
Jeez.
10 million lava or water blocks. Total surface area 12,779,000 blocks. Generated 3 billion. That's incredible. So let's try to open up 1.17. See if we can load it up on there. Assuming how easy this is gonna be. The
I didn't
ideas.
realize.
So go ahead.
I didn't realize. Oh, sorry. I'm talking to myself. I didn't realize one of my vassals was getting raided.
Oh jeez. Looks like I'm losing frames here on the main stream. How can we fix that? Now it says we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and say we're good. So right now I'm just loading up Minecraft. We'll see. Oh, look at that.
Fancy dead. Okay, hold on. Let me go back to. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't have what's it called? There we go. Now it's fine. What's that? I like the music, but let me turn it off for a moment. Okay. It's interesting. Turn the sound down a little bit. There it is. Um, I don't know if I should have done that. Try to make a backup, but I don't think that was a good idea.
Go to Unity. Oh boy.
Well, we will check back in with that in a second.
Nice.
We'll just say we're playing Minecraft right now, I guess. Yeah, let me reopen that and not do that again. Okay. Let's-
Oh fuck!
What happened?
My king died.
Oh. There we go. Let's see this. How's this gonna work? I think this is a pretty big world, to be honest. 0%, 1%. It's going pretty fast, actually. Okay, cool. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely something wrong here.
What?
Help.
What the fuck?
Dude, I don't even know where I am. And the worst part is I can't activate creative mode, so I don't know. Wow, okay, yeah. Jesus. Yeah, imagine playing on this. How deep is the ocean? Oh my god. It just goes, dude. Okay, look, there's the floor. It literally goes to 1. I will die before I go back up. Can I enable cheats after joining the world? I can recreate it. There we go. Hopefully that works. It's an interesting shape this guy going on. I don't think that worked. Oh, had that. Yeah, this is this did not work, I don't think. It did not. I wish I could just. What's this gonna do? World folder. Regions. Height map. I think it's gonna work. Let's go back to this then. Excuse me. Okay. So you know what? Let's. How can I zoom in? Oh wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Tools. understand what I'm looking at, I'll be honest. This isn't. That's not anything. No, it's not anything. Tools. Help view. Zoom in. Wow, so like it's very intense. This map. I think I need to watch a tutorial on how this works, because like this is interesting. Let me try doing a height map again. We will do the same one, but how can I make that like not as intense? Do we make it smaller? That makes it larger. World Painter height map. Let's see. Oh wow. Okay. That makes them less rough, but it's still very rugged. Delirious is underwater, goodness. curious. Can I do like? How do you change that? Oh wow. It's a good scale. I just wish it wasn't this rough. What can I do to fix that? Okay, that's the world. What do I like? Sponge, smooth. Smooth. There we go. Whoa. Okay. I think we're getting somewhere. Intensity. How do I change how big the brush is? Oh shit. Don't do that. No, we don't want that. guessing that it creates a layer of. Is there a brush tool? Like, there we go. If I want, this. Okay. Kind of getting it now. Biomes. No. You know what? Let me Oh, that's how you change the size. That's good to know. Okay. I will be. You guys still here, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I'll be right back.
All right.
we're back. Hello, hello.
Hello.
I think the best course of action would be to watch a tutorial because as fun as jumping into this is, it's not the most beneficial. So, you know what, let me, yeah, let's go watch a tutorial on a World Painter. Excuse me, gosh. Yeah, sure. Let me pause this real quick, actually. Hold on. I'll be right back real quick. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're all good.
Okay, we're back. And my sister's dog was getting sick, so she just wanted help. But he's okay now. Okay, let's let's check this out and see if we can learn anything.
Yo guys, what is up? My name is Jurocroft and welcome to a very different kind of video. A lot of you have been wanting to find out how I create some of the landscape found in my videos. If you've been watching in the past, you know I've done a lot of terraforming. From the simple grasslands to snow biomes,
That's really cool, actually.
desert
Whoa, holy
biomes,
shit.
and even nether-style firelands. All this is thanks to a program called World Painter. I've been using the program now for over 4 years, so hopefully today we can dedicate some time to teaching you some tips and techniques. So without further ado, let's get down to business.
Okay.
Right
okay.
guys, now all downloads will be in the description below. Obviously download World Painter, but you're also going to need some custom trees as well as some custom brushes. If you purchased one of my USBs, you will already have all that extra content on the pen drive. If not, you can download them for free on my Planet Minecraft homepage, as well as downloading a few custom tree schematics. This will help you really make some incredible Minecraft landscape. Now, when you open World Painter, most importantly, you have your tools on the left-hand side and your custom brushes and default brushes on the right-hand side. In order to install custom brushes, just click on Tools, open the Custom Brushes folder, and place the custom brushes into this file. After that's done, just close World Painter, start it up again, and it's as simple as that. Your custom brushes will be installed. So rather than showing you every single available tool on World Painter one by one, I rather just create a new Minecraft world, and this way you guys can follow along and create your very own custom map. To start off with, just head over to File, New World, and you will be presented with a whole bunch of settings. Now this is some really basic stuff, so don't worry too much about this guys, just name your Minecraft world. I'm gonna name this Jurocroft Custom Map, choose the dimensions. I'm gonna go very small, so 1024 by 896, seeing as this is just a tutorial video. Everything else is pretty basic and self-explanatory, just pretty much changes the size of your hills. Your hill size you can change to flat, you can change the surface of the terrain. If you're going for a desert build, just change that to sand. For now, we're just gonna keep it grass and click on create. Right guys, now pay close attention because this is the most crucial part of any World Painter project. When we start, you need to click on the height tool. This will allow you to raise and lower the height of the terrain, obviously. Then select one of your custom brushes. I'm just going to select this random mountain right here. And by left clicking, you're going to create a mountain. And by right clicking, you're going to decrease the height of the terrain. Also notice I've increased the intensity of the brush over here on the bottom right corner to 100%. Now you're going to notice that when you do click on the left mouse button, you're going to create some pretty sharp, intense mountains, and this is not what you want. You can actually check on what you're doing by clicking on the Show 3D View, and you can lock this view by clicking on this gold lock icon right there.
Oh,
and
shit.
as you can see, this is a pretty atrocious mountain. This is not what we want. So this is where the technique comes into play. By using the mouse wheel, you can decrease and increase the size of the brush. As you can see, that dotted line is pretty much the size of the brush. So you need to start with a small brush and then left click, and at the same time use the mouse wheel to scroll out and create a mountain. This will basically allow the terrain to blend in a lot nicer with its surroundings. Now this is really down to trial and error. It does take a bit of practice, but eventually you'll find what works best for you. Just experiment with different brushes, sizes, and simply lower the intensity of the brush if it's way too fast. But mainly stick to that technique I showed you at first, which focuses on the mouse wheel. It's very important. But whatever you do, just create a basic landscape using some brushes and the height tool to surround the map in mountains. Now bear in mind that the first few stages are the most crucial, so you need to be 100% convinced that you're happy with the landscape, because once you start adding beaches, trees, water, it's going to be a lot more challenging to change a mountain once you have everything else complete. So let's talk about some of the other tools. The spray paint tool, we're going to use this to simply cover up all those patches of sand and stone. So I'm going to select terrain, I'm going to select grass, and then I'm going to head over to one of the normal brushes, a high intensity brush, and increase the intensity of that brush by 100%. And that will just simply cover up all of those patches. So next up we have another important tool, and it's called the Flatten an Area tool. Pretty much self-explanatory, but I highly recommend you use a custom brush for this. It's very sensitive, so I don't recommend you hold down the left mouse button. Just simply click on different areas of the map. This will kind of level things out and kind of also create a few cliffs here and there. Again, this is pretty much down to preference, and it kind of depends what brush you use, what kind of intensity, the size of the brush, etc, etc. Also, don't forget you do have the 3D view to keep an eye out on what it is you're doing and try and get a visual on what the map is going to look like once we import that into Minecraft. Right guys, now even though the map is still not complete, we're going to export this into Minecraft and find out what it looks like. Seriously, just because it looks good on World Painter doesn't mean it's going to look good in Minecraft. So head over to File, Export as a new Minecraft map, and again you're going to see a bunch of settings. Don't worry too much about this, pretty basic stuff. You can change the name of the map once again, you can add caverns, you can even change the amount of resources that generate across the landscape at any one time. So for example, you can change the percentage of gold generated just by hitting on the arrow keys and changing the percentage. Again, this is pretty much down to preference, and you can even flood the map with 100% diamonds, and you're gonna find diamonds everywhere. So again, it's pretty much down to preference, pretty basic stuff. Head over to the general tab, pretty important, uncheck include chest of goodies, we don't need that, but most importantly, uncheck structures. If not, you're gonna have an ocean monument spawn right in the middle of a mountain, and we don't need that. We can ignore the rest of the settings for now, we'll deal with that later on, but very important, make sure you change the mode to creative and pretty much export.
That's where I forgot to change it. Okay.
Right then, so jumping onto Minecraft, you guys can see that this does not look bad at all. In fact, it looks a lot better than I could have imagined. Either way, it is very important to jump back and forth between World Painter and Minecraft to see the progress you're making. Right then, so we are back on World Painter, and the next phase is to lower the terrain surrounding the map. So just simply go to the height tool, select a custom brush, and right click somewhere where you have free space. Just lower the terrain, go back to the flatten tool, and just simply make your way around the edge of the map.
Oh, he's trying to make the ocean, I guess.
Now obviously guys, the more time you take doing this, the better it's going to look in the end. Obviously I'm kind of rushing things for the purpose of this video, but the next stage is to grab the flood tool, which is this water drop icon, and just simply left click on the lowest part of the map as many times as you can until you find the perfect kind of island that works for you.
Okay.
And this is pretty much where you make those final changes, so make sure again you're 100% convinced with your landscape using the height and flatten tools. Right then guys, let's just say that after a few hours of hard work, you're finally happy with your survival island. Well, the next phase would be to use the spray paint tool to add extra layers of terrain. So click on the spray paint icon and select sand. Now the problem here is that no matter how good of an artist you are, you cannot manually paint a beach. It just doesn't look good. So the way around this is to use the tool on the bottom right corner. This is a very useful tool, but before we use this, I'm going to give you guys a pointer. If you hover the mouse over a certain terrain level, right on the bottom left corner, you can see the height of that terrain.
Height 7.
It's kind of hard to explain this, but the height of the beach would be level 70. So if we head over to the right bottom corner, if we select at or below level 70 and now paint the beach, you're going to notice that it only targets blocks under the height level of 70. I hope this makes sense. I know it can be a bit more complicated at this stage, but really once you get the hang of it, you should be fine. If I now go ahead and increase that to at or below 71, again, you're gonna get a pretty decent looking beach. I mean, this is as good as it gets, guys. Now you can pretty much use this technique for every single type of terrain. So let's just say I want to use some gravel and add a layer of gravel right above the beach. So we're gonna go hover the mouse right above this grass layer, which is height level 72. So we're going to go at or below 72, and we're going to go at or above 72. And this will only target level 72. I hope that makes sense, pretty much. Again, we're going to paint using the high intensity brush, and we have a nice layer of gravel right above the beach. So just to add, a bit of extra color to the terrain, I think this also adds a pretty nice effect. Now, what I do like to do as well is use this brush right here. This is a default World Painter brush. This comes with the program itself. So let's just say that you do go for this brush. Make sure you have a 50% intensity, which should be about enough for this. Click on the spray paint tool and select bare stone. Once you have that done, go to the bottom right corner and click at or above 90. Then by left clicking on the map, you're going to add some stone to the mountain range. This is obviously at or above 90. Now, if you look at the map, we do have a bit of a straight line right down the middle of the mountain. You can right click to get rid of some of that stone to kind of blend it in with the rest of the terrain. Apart from that, you can also add dirt. Now, this specific dirt doesn't actually have grass grow on it, so it's a pretty useful tool as well. It's called perma dirt. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but it's something along those lines. Again, we're going to left click and add some dirt to the mountain range as well. Again, this is all down to preference, so once you're done with all of this, we can move on to the next phase. Right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is layers. So click on the layers tab on the bottom left, and this is pretty much where you can add a bunch of different things, from trees to resources and custom caves. What you want to look at is the plus icon. Left click on that. We're going to get a drop down menu where you can add a bunch of different custom layers. The first layer we're going to take a look at is add a custom object layer. This is going to allow us to add some custom trees. So click on the small icon right here, and you need to find the folder where you saved the trees that you downloaded, if you did download them anyway at the start of the video. This is going to basically give you all the BO2 folders, and by clicking on one of these files, you're going to get a preview of that custom tree. You can select one, or you can select a bunch of different trees. So just as an example, I'm going to select down from 41 to 44 and click open. You can name the layer, so I'm going to put custom trees, and you can change the color of the brush. I'm just going to go for red, and then just click OK. Now, this is a very sensitive brush. You don't want to go high intensity because it's going to go completely overcrowded with trees, and that's not what you want. You can also go back and edit the layer, so right click, edit. And what you can do is actually increase this value. As you can see from the preview, there's a bunch of trees all cluttered together. I highly recommend you actually change this value to about 500. And now, as you can see from the preview, there's a lot less trees and not so cluttered and jammed together. Once you've done that, just click on OK. Again, this is a very sensitive brush, so I highly recommend you use this default World Painter brush and go for an intensity of about 8%, maybe 10%. I mean, you got to be very careful with this. But again, you can go back and forth between Minecraft and World Painter to see exactly what you're doing. Now, another very useful tool is again on the bottom right corner. If you actually select only on, make sure you select terrain and head over to grass. Now, what this does is only target grass blocks, meaning that when we do use the paintbrush for trees, we're only going to have trees on grass blocks. Now, also seeing as we have at or below 90, that means that trees will only generate below 90 blocks and only on grass blocks. So again, we're going to left click on the map, and as you can see a very light shade of red just appear on grass blocks. Again, you don't want to go too overboard with this, because if you do go high intensity, there's going to be way too many trees and it's just not going to look good. Right guys, so after a bit more work on the program, I added a variation of trees, added some grass layers, and also made the terrain a slight bit more rough. Just bear in mind, I did rush this for the purposes of this video, but there is really just so much you can do with this program. Now, I could go on this tutorial rampage for well over an hour. There really is a lot of stuff to cover, but with what I've taught you guys up till now, it should be enough to get you started on creating some epic looking terrain, at least compared to default Minecraft. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try to answer as many as I can. Please don't forget to leave a like on the way out, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. This is Jeracraft over and out.
Okay, okay. I think I have a better idea of how to approach this. So
Nice.
let us go ahead and jump back into this. I'm actually gonna make. Let's just do a new one. No. Actually, do a new height map. Actually, what might help me is if I do this. If I can blur this a bit so it's not as strong, and then export it. Like, would that work? Like this? That's too much. How about like no, how about actually, you know, how about this? So do that. Select this C. And then how do I there we go, we just had it. No, not that. Let's play around with that, see what we get. Save as height map 32. And then import this. No, don't save. I know how to fix that. Simple fix is to open paint. Open this. Save as. Yep. Close out. Try that again. There we go. This was a lot smoother, actually, but nah, it's actually a little too smooth. Let's just go back to this. We'll have to work our way down and smooth it out. So let's see what we can do. So let's oh, you know, let's do the 3D view. Where is that? There it is. Wow. That's almost unrecognizable. So that's Bosmaria. I believe that's Valscoria, Laboga, Samandar, and Vasuna, Illustrious. They're all these really intense, sharp, pointy mountains. And we want to not do that. The spawn point is somewhere in, looks like Laboga. I can't do that. I'm gonna lock this over there. Can't see the 3D view on my screen, but it is there on my other monitor. So let's go ahead and let's smooth out Casabay real quick. I want to see how we gotta go pretty intense, I think. Like, okay. Height. using this brush right because it's only stopping at layer 62, which is good. But it's taking quite a while because of how intense the map is. Get a little closer. Yeah, this is definitely be a much larger project than I anticipated. This is alright. That's better. Actually, why don't I just do this? Because it's not going to affect the water. It's stopping here. Yeah, there we go.
Oh my god.
Look at that, dude. Now, if I go back to show you, it's actually working on the map. So that's the island with Dallas right there, leveled out to level 62, which is cool. So we just got to keep basically doing this for the entire world, and then determine thereafter at which point do we raise certain parts. And luckily for me, I can speed up the process by simply making the brush bigger. And look at that. That is incredible looking. Look at that, that's Cassavea now. Well, most of Cassavea. I want to get the world to be recognizable first, and then we can mess with biomes and things. Oh shit. Get Quitaria down because it's just down here. Might as well. Might as well. It's not even 10 o'clock yet. It's a quarter till. It just feels later, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, let me stream this to you so you can see what's going on in real time. Screen one, go live. Go back to here. Okay, so that's Cassavea and Kutwaria done. Check that out. Turns out Scoria is flat.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
It's not like a cube like we all predicted.
Or a pyramid or whatever it was. Let's go up and make our way around. It's as big as we can go, so let's just do that. What's cool is it reveals these really interesting, like the way it wanted to make these countries look based on the height map. There's still snow and stone and dirt left behind. I think they could actually help us, and when we want to do like the mountains and stuff. I don't understand. So how is Cassavea so flat, but Talmere is like this? Or I guess it hasn't updated yet.
Could very well be.
That's so strange. Oh. I think I know
Something
why.
out.
I think I was left clicking. I was supposed to right click. That's why Talmere is like a weird, what you call it. That's much better. Okay, yeah, I forgot. Left click on this is increase. Right click is decrease the height. And so it was leveling out at 62, or I don't know actually. But we're fixing it right now. Okay. Get these islands. See, now take a look. Much more recognizable.
Oh yeah.
Auto saving's nice. Let me just drag that go over here.
That'd be more strategic for ground.
I think I want to fill in some of these lakes with the grass so that we got valleys going on.
Okay.
The way Teleria is set up is giving me ideas about making like a swamp later. It's like kind of flooded. There's the bokeh. Looking good. Perfect. Let's start getting illustrious.
I need a lot of money.
Okay. Well, there you have it. The world's flat. That's funny, dude. Look at that. Gosh. I'm really interested to see this in game. So what I'm going to do now is save as that. I want to export as a new map in creative. No structures like the dude said. I'm not gonna worry about anything else. Let that do its thing and then check it out. On the map itself, like the preview, the blending looks really nice, but I don't know how good that's going to translate when we see it. So that'll be interesting. I think for the most part, I want to follow the way the mountains are. Oh, okay. I can't look at it while it's exporting. It's fine. But I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, I like the placement of like where the mountains are based on the height map. So with respect to that, try to follow that and see what I can do with changing the biomes and stuff. Like I've already got ideas for what I want to do. Okay. I wonder if I could even change the water temperature yet. Maybe not. If I could get away with that, I would make like Matafua and Basmaria like the warm ocean biomes. But we don't know. Two minutes remaining. You know, let me I can't access my layers or my notifications because of the render. So let me just leave that as it is, I guess. I heard minimize. Let's open the launcher from Minecraft. Close it out. Let's just wait for it to export, I guess. Nice, nice, nice. Alright. Let me minimize that. Oh, we're still on. Okay, cool. We're having some struggling frames for a second. That's okay. Let's go ahead and hit play. See what we got. Preparing. Oh, okay. Boom, gone. Alright, cool. I was like, where is it? There it is. Single player. There we go. Perfect. Create. Ooh. I figured if this is 100% or if it's upscaled. Wow, look at that.
Fellas, I'm not gonna lie. I realized about 10 minutes ago that I was muted this whole
Oh,
time.
Jesus. I thought you were like AFK this whole time.
I wasn't really talking that much anyways, but like little things I would say, I was kind of shocked that you guys didn't respond to.
Huh.
But I mean, that's okay. It's all right.
It happened. It happens.
Definitely happens, and it is what it is. We
Good
just
to
gotta
see
take
you.
it for what it is and not dwell on the past.
Life lessons from Dalton. There you go.
Yeah. Don't be an idiot, and not realize that you're muted for an hour and a half. However, I'm probably gonna get off. I just beat the Borderlands 3. Just beat Borderlands 3. And what's this? Oh, that's the Maliwan takedown. I don't want to do that. I get my stuff pushed in. And I'm probably gonna go to bed. Tomorrow I'll probably start my new playthrough again.
Alrighty.
All right.
But you guys have it going, all right?
You as well, my friend.
Yep.
Look at that. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, for proof of concept, this is really fucking cool. The part that's hilarious is like Teleria is like 90% submerged underwater.
Oh shit. Yeah, as proof of concept, it's cool.
I think I want to upscale it by like 200. This is 100, I believe.
Oh, hold up. How many? Oh my god.
Like you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right, this is the Horde of Nidawai, the Cape of Hex. We're in like Solgari land right now. Maiko's right there.
Right. Oh my god. My wife, my wife in Crusader Kings 3 has. Wait, yo, is that? Yeah, fucking Nidorai? Yo,
Yeah,
that's
it
actually
is.
really cool.
The only problem is I gotta adjust the water height because like these are like death pits.
Yeah.
They go down to level 1. This is level 62.
My wife in Crusader Kings 3 has given me 7 daughters.
Jesus Christ. That's
I mean,
hilarious.
I'm okay with having a female heir, but Jesus Christ.
Let's check out Alagosa and Casabea. Okay. What's cool is the biome data saves as well. So like this isn't just like a desert that looks like grass, it's actually a plains. We definitely wanna so for sure I wanna upscale this and I want to fix the water height. Or like if I can put stuff in the water, like gravel or sand, that'd be nice. Cause like right now it's pretty creepy. Flying over Casavea. This is the middle of Casavea. It's created like this giant lake, where like Gordium is. There's Kilram and Dalisk. Soon we shall find there's DNA. And if we keep going this way, that's Bahio. Aurora. Okay. And oh, here we go. Bacteria. Look at all this. This is like a big bunch of lakes that formed around, like I guess, Korthgal, or like around where that would be.
Okay.
I think we'll fill them in with like the valleys. You can see like this is like Prokel over there, the Valdish Federation, Malinka. Northwall. How do I make myself go faster? Effect. Give me speed. 2. Wait, hold on. That much. 2.
Good lord, how old is my guy? 32, and he's fucking disfigured. Jesus.
God.
Yeah, well, I fought a very costly battle because I need to take out a kingdom because I want one of their shit, and it's been a pain.
Jeez. It's like the middle part of Talmere. Morvac is like one, or no, that's Catarast, and part of Morvac. It's like a giant friggin' mountain. Got this is like if Archaea, Chevinach. This is like the NASA. Hirlin has like a giant gash in it. Which I mean is kind of fitting. I mean Sweden has a lot of lakes, right? Legion Mark. Markenholm. Let's fly over this way. Oh god. Maybe I'll even do like 300 because I really want this to be like a big map. Which it would take a while to render. But it'd be so freaking cool. It's Mayfield. Gosh, it's like all.
Oh my god, oh my god, I can't believe this. I've taken the same, like, princess 4 fucking times as a prisoner, and I just keep ransoming her off.
Jeez.
I love this game.
I guess if I wanted to do Scoria, this would probably be the best scale. There's my country. There's good old Guwaki. Arcandross is like 2 blogs, it looks like, but still, that's funny. Vedenum, Prina, Wisdo. Let's go over to Illustrious and Visuna, and then hop back into this. I believe that's more Laboka. Yeah, this is Aranka. That's Yedinu. Shudar and Treasure and Kadal. Barovia will lead us to Mathafua. It's right there. Satiantium. That was Nimu. Mainland of Matafua. It's called Loa Ahiwai. Oh wait. Hang on. That is called Loa. Ahiwai is that general shape, it got submerged. Sid Charlotte. Who's a Rocher? Look at that, dude. Ah, we gotta make the interior of Rochers like the Outback, basically. That'll be cool. And this is, I believe, Tao and Winier. That's Varala, that's Cameo, Badai. Bossier, Sijanuvia got flooded. Danzao. It's good that this works at least, but like, yeah, we're definitely gonna work on this. Oh yeah, you know what? Samandar, how does that look? That's awesome. That's insane. There we go. Well, there you go. I think we've seen quite enough. On that note, let us continue with World Painter. Perfect. I want to reopen this as a new height map. No. Okay.
Nobody. That would be a good spot.
Okay. Let me look at 32 again. No, because that gets rid of a lot of things. 31's good. Quit out of Minecraft. There we go. Okay.
Hold up. Excuse me.
You know, I'm gonna try 300. Let's get a little ambitious with this for a second. So the deepest they can go, I think, is going to be 10 blocks. So let's see how that looks. Here goes nothing. This is taking longer because it's we're like triple scaling this, which is a little crazy, but should be alright. It'll make for a very cool, very big, diverse map, which probably won't get done tonight, but at the very least we can flatten it out and make it look nice. So now campus is going to be like around 600 blocks wide, I think. Big countries are going to feel big. And I think off stream, probably tomorrow, I will download the custom brushes this guy was talking about, the video we watched.
Ooh.
Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. See, what's the scale on canvas? I mean, it's still pretty big. You know, let's open the, where is it? There we go. Still a mess as is expected, but that's okay. We know how to fix that now. So, let's just flatten it for right now. At or above level 62, which I believe is the last layer for grass. Is that doing anything? Am I... I wonder why it's not doing anything. There we go. It's kind of putting my computer to work here because trying to stream and render all this is a little too much. Let me turn off the 3D view for right now. Just focus on flattening everything. I'm just only now realizing the scale of the project. So, oh man,
Sure.
it's a lot. So, and I've been going for like almost 4 hours. So what I might do is, I think we'll probably call the stream here, and I'll try to have more done for tomorrow. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. Well, alrighty. I'm gonna keep what's the word, punching away at this, and hopefully I can get far enough, and then show some progress later. Maybe I'll post some stuff on Twitter as time goes on, because
Yeah.
I'm starting to think this is gonna be a long-term project, and that's okay.
Yeah. But I think it will be really cool once you get it all down and get it all put together.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty excited, honestly. So, alrighty. Well, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for watching. Nick, thank you for hanging out.
You're more than welcome. Always happy to be on the stream.
It's a pleasure. Shout out to Dalton and Stan who were on earlier. I think tomorrow, either try to do more of this, or maybe some Stardew, or maybe we'll actually play something with everybody. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a Holy Pizza Friday, I believe, so tomorrow. So, very important day in our Dream Conjurer religion.
This is true.
Alhamdulillah. Anyways, if you'd like to know when I go live, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Mazarim. There's a link in the chat for you right now. And yeah, I was really happy today to do a world building stream. I don't know how common that is on the platform, but I was really happy at least to give a brief introduction. Well, I say brief, but like it was like a 2 hour introduction. So, but the plan for that is to hopefully do more world building streams, talk about lore, designing things, maybe even some map stuff, which is always fun.
Yep.
Alrighty, but yeah, on that note, thank you guys again for coming out.